Andrew, first, is now the trade deadline has come to an end. How would you assess the acquisitions you guys were able to make?
Yeah, we're excited about the guys that we added. I think to be able to do that in the last week allowed us to really focus on more kind of the high end, top end of the market, which was great. So having those things in the bank and addressing some of our more acute needs allowed us to do that, and so we were able to spend our efforts and energy that way. And for various different reasons for those top end guys, it just didn't work out.
You talk about just the acute needs. Dave Robertson talks about a right-handed bat. There's no to get obviously some pitching depth. Do you feel like you got what you needed at this trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I think our standpoint is to always be aggressive to augment and supplement our roster. Some years we've done it way more aggressively. I think the effort level is always the same. Sometimes you line up and sometimes you don't. It's obviously a hard dynamic ever working out a trade. And we've been successful at it, and we were able to line up on two right-handed bats and Lance and Yarborough, which we feel like really add into the group that we have. And that coupled with the arms that we feel like are getting healthy right now, we feel like we have a very talented, not just 26-man roster, but some real depth behind it to help us navigate August and September and hopefully a long October.
Is it disappointing you didn't get one of the high-end type of guys you guys were targeting the last couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're going through this, and we've targeted high-end guys a lot of deadlines, sometimes it's worked out and sometimes it hasn't. When it doesn't, of course, you want to do that. We're all really competitive, and so you want that to happen. But we knew that this year there was a smaller number than there typically is for various reasons, but there were a few guys that fit really well that we aggressively pursued, and that's how it goes. And from our standpoint, we feel really good about the team that we have and the depth we have behind it. With that said, you always want to feel even better.
How surprised were you guys that Eduardo didn't waive his no trade?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't expect it at all. I mean, we wouldn't have known one way or the other. We thought with having a lot of his ex-teammates and guys that he's played with that and our place in the standings, and we thought we would be very desirable, but obviously for family reasons, we never got a chance to talk to Eduardo, but we talked to his agent numerous times, and we respect that he had this right and he exercised it. Obviously, we would have loved for him to join what we have going here, but it's hard for us to argue with family reasons.
Did spending as much time as you did on that and coming up empty affect what you could do elsewhere?
No. I think from our standpoint, we thought it was done, and then learned that it wasn't, and started working on other things while continuing to have those conversations. Again, I'm not going to get into defining who fits into each category, but for us, the top end of the market, we were aggressive in pursuing. The group below that, kind of the versatile arm, floor raiser, someone that fits in well with our existing group and helps augment our depth, we were more price sensitive on. And from our standpoint, we knew that with one of those top end guys, it was going to be really challenging, especially if one other team was involved. And then with Eduardo, it was something we didn't know, but obviously respected.
When you talk about price sensitivity, are we talking about prospects or financial?
Prospects.
Is worthy the top end starting pitchers just priced too hard to get to, or farther than you were willing to go?
No, I mean, one we lined up on. One we didn't, because his preference was to go to one team where he did go. So, we knew that one was going to be tough unless that team wasn't in. And one we did.
Andrew, is it typical for you to do that amount of work and the other team hasn't cleared that hurdle?
I don't think I've ever encountered it before. I was trying to think about it. I haven't encountered a lot of no trade scenarios. I have a couple, and usually you'll get close to the finish line because the other team doesn't necessarily want to head fake and ask about all these various teams. And sometimes it's hard for a player to put themselves in that situation without it being real. But I don't have a ton of experience with it, in that most deals haven't had that attached to it. But obviously it was a long time.
Were you guys directly told either by the Tigers or his agent that he was going to waive it during negotiations leading up to that?
No, it wasn't unknown at that point. We just were banking on the fact that, with former teammates, and there was every reason to believe that he would from various conversations, but nothing definitive.
How much were you able to see what else was out there in those last couple hours after that all went down? Were there other teams you guys tried to check back in on after that?
Yeah, I mean, we had active conversations going. Some on bigger targets that didn't move, but it was certainly not ideal from a time standpoint, but also wasn't that costly.
How do you envision using Yarborough?
A versatile arm that fits in with our group and helps stabilize in some ways, and whether it's starting or bulk out of the pen remains to be seen. Obviously, we've got some guys returning that we need to figure out that timeline, and existing guys and prospects who are getting to some uncharted territory innings-wise, and all of that we just need to wrap our arms around. We wanted to get August 1st and past the trade deadline to do that, to have a sense of who's going to be here, and then layer in the guys that are coming back and how that fits in with our existing group, and what that looks like.
Why do you think Yarborough's been so much more effective at the start?
Can't answer that, in that I haven't been around him yet. I look forward to it. Heard really good things about him from his time with the Rays and also the Royals. He loves to compete and was all in on any role, and just asked for communication, which we stressed was something that was also really important to us. So he's excited to get here after he wraps up a few things in Kansas City, and I think that's key, is just communicating our way through it.
When you talk about like prices for some of the pitchers being kind of beyond what you guys wanted, how much a reflection of that is your trust in the current staff here and what you have, versus kind of projecting longer term what the roster is going to look like and which young pieces you want to bring?
I mean, I think the first thing is always getting at evaluating the pitcher that you might be acquiring and how that fits in, and what the chances are that they're starting a playoff game, or someone that would pitch meaningful innings in October, and then working back from that. And so it just buckets in kind of different groupings in terms of how they fit us, and how they fit us in August and September, how they potentially fit us in October, which gets at our aggressiveness.
What do you see from him this year, and how do you feel like the pitching coaches can really help him whether it's unlock the next level or kind of get to where you guys want to be this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you never really know when you're doing a deep dive and watching video and digging on guys, but we felt confident that with how he's wired, and our pitching group and some of the things that we saw, that there are some levers that we can work with him to pull and access some real upside. And obviously, time will tell, but just the competitor, the ability to take down innings the way he does, and working with him, and just how competitive and curious he is, to get him back to that was something we felt comfortable with that bet.
This is the second year you had traded line expanded playoffs, more buyers than sellers in the past. Do you find that everything to be more expensive now that that's happened? And will you guys in the future have to change how you view your own process and have to acquire talent in the future?
No, I mean, I think this deadline was very different than last deadline. But again, we were able to line up on a guy that we felt like could have featured prominently for us in October. So, no, I mean, this year was a little bit different in that, even a week ago, there were a chunk of teams that were still on the fence of whether they were a buyer, seller, or just holding. Which I think gets a little bit too expanded playoffs, but it was even more pronounced than last year. And so I just think it was a weirder market in terms of supply this year as compared to last that I think is more of a anomaly type thing. But obviously there are more buyers. But I feel like we were able to line up and we had guys that were asked about it. It was more a function of like who was available more.
The three designated guys who were they'll pay for cash consideration. What is that kind of a deal look like? What's the range of cash consideration for those type of deals?
Anywhere from $0, I guess $1, to $100,000. That is a range for those transactions.
What's going on with JD Martinez?
Just a little bit of I don't even know, groin, hammy, feels better today, and I think it's something where we're going to be able to avoid the IL, but we're going to be smart about it. So he felt better yesterday and Sunday and feels better today, so we'll continue to assess it. But to be honest, I haven't fully wrapped my arms around it yet. I'm just coming up for air.